So today, as Mrs. Booterly already said, we're going to talk about point of view, which means we're going to figure out together who is telling different stories. Right? Who is telling the story? So I'm going to hold up the owl every time I say who, or I'm going to try to.
Oh, I get it.
Who is telling the story?
Oh, I get it because like the owl says who.
That's right, the owl says who. So I have a partner who's going to help teach, and he's a white owl, a snowy owl, I think.
It's at the zoo.
At the zoo. No, I broke him out of the zoo to help me today. He's here at Tully. Okay, so we're going to talk. So we're going to start out first. I know that we've talked a lot in here about characters, and I know we've also talked a little bit about narrators. So first I want to do a quick turn and talk. I'm going to give you a thinking stem to use. I want you to tell me what you know about narrators. So first I want you to tell your partner what you know about narrators. So my turn, a narrator is... And then you'll tell your partner. So turn and talk to a partner. So what do you think a narrator
What's gonna happen is something like he talks like
Okay, let's come back up here. I think everybody has had a chance. So who wants to share what they said a narrator is? Sully? A narrator is the person who tells the story. Okay, that's one thing. Eli?
A narrator is the person that can sometimes be in the story, but most of the time it's not. But most of the time he's not. He just tells like, so Jack walked down the path, because Jack wouldn't say Jack walked down the path.
Okay, so that's when Jack is not the narrator. An outside narrator says about Jack, Jack walks down the path. But if Jack were telling the story, how would it go?
It would be like, so I walked down the path.
I walked down the path. That's what Jack said. Okay, so it seems like we have a pretty good idea the difference between a character who is telling his or her own story and a narrator who is telling somebody else's story. My owl is not being very helpful. It's definitely not my fault. It's the owl's fault. Okay, so, believe it or not, somebody wrote a story about me, and it's right here on the blue. I'm going to read it to you, and then we're going to use, I came up with a foolproof way to figure out who is telling the story. A man fell down the stairs. His wife tried to laugh, but it was too funny. Tried not to laugh, but it was too funny. She loves her clumsy husband. Okay, so this story is about me. Am I the narrator? No?
You're the man who fell down.
I'm the man who fell down the stairs. The story is about me. So for those of you who are feeling confused, I came up with a list of rules. I came up with a list of rules that will tell us how we can figure out, how we can always figure out who is telling the story.
Yeah, you did it.
Okay, finally did it. Okay, so rule number one is when you are looking at a story, number one, who are the characters in the story? So you list the stories. So you list the characters. In this story over here, who are the characters?
Oh, you and the wife.
And your wife.
Okay, so there are two characters. There's me, or who is that person?
Your wife.
No,
Mr. Otting.
Mr. Otting. and
Your wife.
his wife. Okay, so there are two characters. Now, step number 2 is any one of the characters telling the story?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
So you think Mr. Otting is telling the story?
No,
Or is his wife telling the story?
No, the
You're telling the
narrator.
story.
Well, I was reading you the story,
No one's telling
but
the
was
story.
it from my point of view?
No.
Okay, so who is telling the story?
You.
Fernanda.
The narrator.
The narrator. Okay, so that brings us to step number 3. If not, the narrator is telling the story. So we determined that Mr. Otting, me, and his wife, neither of them is telling the story. So it must be the narrator. Does that make sense? So, one more example. This is the same story, but I wrote it this time. So I'm going to read it to you. I did the most amazing combination backflip somersault down the stairs. My wife saw it and rolled around the floor with happiness at my accomplishment. Now she knows I'm an acrobat.
Did that actually happen?
Yes.
Oh.
So, you heard the narrator's version of the story, and you heard my version of the story. You can sort of see how, depending on the point of view, each person has a different sort of interpretation, right? According to the narrator, what happened to me?
Is it in real life?
Yes.
What?
It really happened.
Both things happen at the same time.
I would show you here, but there's no stairwell in the school, or I would definitely do a combination somersault backflip.
Do it in the beat.
But let's get back on track. So,
What's it backwards?
does everybody remember the first version of the story? The narrator? What happened in that version?
You tumbled down the stairs.
You fell down.
I fell down, right? And in this one,
You flipped.
I flipped down, which seems like I tried to do it on purpose.
I think I did it.
Isaiah? Let's listen to Isaiah. He thinks he gets it.
I think, like in the stories, you would. I think the first story you would try to do a backflip on that, and you fell down, and then this one you actually did it.
Right. So I accidentally fell down the stairs in the narrated version. But in this one, I did a backflip somersault on purpose down the stairs because I'm an amazing acrobat. Acrobat is actually a combination of an acrobat and a robot, but we're not going to get into that today. Okay, so you've seen both of those stories, and I'm going to do one more example with you all while we're still up here, and then you're going to all go back to your desks, and you're going to have a book, and you're going to have to decide if it's told by a character or by a narrator. But the example I have is because we just watched that play, Rumpelstiltskin. If that story starts once upon a time, that's told by the narrator, right?
Right.
But let's say the story was told like this. I get such a bad reputation because I wanted to steal the princess's first child, but I think I was really helpful because I helped her turn 3 rooms of straw into gold. Now, who is telling that version of the story? Rumpelstiltskin. So you understand the difference between when a narrator tells it and a character. So I think we're ready to pass out the books. Okay, William and Sully. Okay, the routine is you're gonna come up and get your book, and then Mrs. Bruderly is gonna give you a marker and a whiteboard. And with the whiteboard, I want you to list the characters in the story. Then step 2, determine is one of the characters telling the story. And step number 3, if not, it must be the narrator. So do you understand? List the characters on the whiteboard. If it is one of the characters telling the story, you circle that character. And if it is not, then I want you to write N for narrator on the whiteboard. Does everybody understand? Okay. William and Sully, you're going to do Elephants Cannot Dance. Gabe and Brett, you're going to do Stripes, a case of Tyler and Lauren, you're going to do Kitten's First Full Moon. Graham and Kendall, you're going to do Owen. JP and Asher, you're going to do Fish is Fish. They can come on. Jack and Isaiah, you're going to do There Are Monsters Everywhere. Jenna and Ariana,
Now where's our
you're
bucket?
going to do Just Me and My Puppy.
Where's our bucket?
And Fernanda and Gabby, you're going to do Just Shopping with Mom.
Ian, where's the whiteboard?
Parker and Jesse, you're going to do Alligator Under My Bed. And Eli and Kelsey, you're going to do There's a Nightmare in My
No, you get a whiteboard.
Let me get the whiteboard.
You got it back out. Leave it like that.
Look, there's so many whiteboards.
You're going to read it and then you're going to figure it out. So you write down the characters. Graham, you can write down the characters. And then you're going to figure out if one of the characters is telling the story. And if not, then it's the narrator. Okay, but couldn't the character also use the word they? What if your character was, I love my parents. They are really sweet. So you have to be careful with that. Well, you figure it out. Keep writing down all the characters and then decide.
I'll start off with 2 characters. Wait, he's walking into that's right. Just keep going around.
Writing to okay, so you might want to write that down.
But I just made one where I dashed because
Same character. Do we have another marker? Yeah, I think you have to share a marker since one of their markers is broken. Number 2, so you're supposed to ask yourself, are any of the characters telling stories? So do you have a list of characters? Show me your list. So you don't have to write down all the steps. You just have to know them. Okay, so that's
I'm starting with
so who do you have first? Okay. So you think the character is what? Or means you think who is telling the story? Him? How do you know that the narrator is a guy? Oh, I see what you mean. So what is his name?
It doesn't have his name in the story.
Oh, there's no name? Okay, so sometimes a character can